Marie Herndon.
Good evening. This past weekend, I had the opportunity to hear a presentation from Dr. Rick Baldwin, who shared information on how to really grow a city economically, economic development growth in a city. The very first thing that he mentioned and kept emphasizing was image. The way the city looks will attract businesses, will attract people to want to come here and live. As Mr. Dickey shared, why don't we have more businesses in here? Maybe it's because of the way the city looks. I grew up here. I was born on this campus. And when I grew up here, it did not look like this. It didn't look like this at all. But we need to enforce our ordinances. We need code enforcement. Property tax owners want their property taxes. There's one at lowered. There's not a council member up here who hasn't shared the same view that Mr. Dickey shared. We have the largest tax rate in Waller County. But council, I'm going to ask you, what are you going to do about it? Bring in fiber optics? Because that's what you decided to do, and take code enforcement out of the budget. We need code enforcement in order to attract businesses and rooftops. We do have some businesses coming in here, but we've got to get rooftops too. When I grew up here, all the professors, everybody lived on campus. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it looks like a funeral procession going out of here. Goes down University and then makes that turn to Cypress and Houston. It wasn't always like that. We can get back to it. Now, yes, Officer White works with code enforcement. I too was working with Officer White. This council decided that fiber optics was more important than my continuing to work with Officer White. Officer White has a lot to do. All of our officers are super officers. He has to be the bailiff. He does patrol, and I know he does because I listen to him on the radio. He has code enforcement. Code enforcement is almost a full-time job. I was using my car, my gas, to drive around and work with Officer White. I am certified through TEACS in code enforcement. So I'm asking this council to reevaluate what they've done, because you don't pay property taxes, so you may not understand what you just did, but we do. So I'm asking you on the next agenda to reevaluate it and put the code enforcement back in there so we can get businesses, we can get homes in here, and we can make Prairie View look like it should look, and it should have the image that you should want it to have and that we want it to have as taxpayers. So please keep that in mind. Thank you.
The next item I put, and we're going to go through over this for council's edification. Mr. Melendez?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you come forward? There were a couple of things that he shared with me that I think council needs to know, particularly about his prior experience before working with the city, about some things we've been running into with the water line from Highway 290 to the entrance to the university that's under. And I'll let you tell them, because since you said you were here.
I was here when they did the road in university, and I think I mentioned to the mayor was there because we come from a company, water company, used to be a service traffic, run the work for the city. At that time, I mentioned it, in the long run, we're gonna have to move the water line under the street because the leaks. We did several leaks already. They cost quite a bit of money. They done there at that time. When I told them they didn't have to pay this money, to move it out of the street.
And what Mr. Melendez is saying in a nutshell, particularly with the council and everyone's edification, when they did a widening of University Drive, the water lines weren't moved.
Wow.
So now we're encountering, let the record show that Councilman Randall has joined us. The water line wasn't moved, and as recent as last week, we had another break
Right.
that we have to call in, we have to go through TxDOT, because FM 1098 says they do. And all the while, we're waiting on them to go through their procedures. We're losing water, also known as losing money. But the residents, their water pressure will go down in situations like that. And that one bill costs the city $23,000. That's the third one in 24 months. So what I'll be getting back with council on, but I wanted them to hear from Mr. Melendez, who's one of our machine operators, and again, he had experience with Severn Trent for 20 years doing this type of thing prior to coming to Prairie, so I thought it was important that everyone hear from him. But what we were discussing, and again, we'll get back when we got the particulars, was the possibility of laying new lines outside from under the street and then basically cutting them off at both ends and just leaving that old line that keeps breaking. Because what's happening is every time we fix one, the pressure increases at another weak area, and we find out about that after we have a leak and we have to go through, and they've all been averaging 20,000 plus for those 3 leaks, again in 24 months, and they're going to continue. So we're just looking at something to eradicate that situation on an ongoing long-term basis, and just wanted to stick that out there for council. Anything else you want to share, Mr. Miller? Any questions council may have for? Yes.
So what is your plan or proposal that you would give to us to offset this?
Well, the mayor was telling me, but we can move it. I mean, we still trying to do it before we have any more issues than the one we have. I mean, we could, some contractor will only take maybe a week to move it out of well, right now, outside.
And how much would that cost?
Well,
We're not sure.
I'm not sure, but I have a contractor who can give us a bid, you know, and do our best stuff.
Yeah, we just had that conversation as recent as yesterday, Friday. So I just wanted to, again, make council aware of the problem, number one. But number two, we'll get back with you on specific on that possible solution. Councilman Rowe.
So when we come back to try to figure out, we'll have a plan, knowing how much line, what is the cost. And so is it, if I remember correctly, this is the line that is under 1098?
Judging, how much money do we have in the bond?
Well, after you do East Parkway, when you do the Alta Vista, you're only going to have about 150 to 200,000. This line was estimated at one time around $600,000. One of the alternatives that we thought about, Mr. Lindsay, I don't know if it's still a viable alternative or not, and that was to run a replacement line through the current line. A smaller line through there. That was one of the alternatives that was brought up. I don't know if that's still viable or not. The other problem you got with University Drive is all those trees along there. We even looked at that. You would have to go over into the yards to run a second line. You cannot run one right on the edge of the driveway there because of all those big old trees out there.
And then we can still go with this with 6 inch.
Yeah, right.
But it had to be
Through the line.
through the line,
Right.
between the ditch and the edge of the curb.
Yeah.
We still have it.
Yeah, that was one of the alternatives.
Well, again, as we wait to get more information, I think it's important that we give all the information. I think because it's not a simple $50,000 fix. This is a $600,000 fix, and what we tried to do, even at the time, it wasn't. We would just repair the line and continue to move forward. The reason why we're asking is that if we're going to put this into our overall plan that we're talking about when we have to update things in the city, we need to be thinking about this long term to figure out a solution. And so if we can get some bids, Mr. Mayor, if you could run the point on this, it's something we definitely need to put into our plan.
Absolutely. Now, and again, after the third $20-something thousand repair, just want to make sure council is aware. And we'll take a look at all those options and bring it back to you. Just want to make sure you're aware of the problem. And some of you probably saw the road work on that 1598. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to let you know that if you are a client of any assistance or help with a committee being formed or anything to help you out along this project, we will.
Okay, appreciate it. Yes, we will. So we'll do that. Thanks. And next on the item, we'll have presentations, prospective city attorney proposals. And the first one would be Floyd Martin Akers, Law Office of Floyd Akers.
Any mayor, members of council? Would you just like me to go freeform here, or did you want to start the
Yes,
questions?
if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. Council has the information you submitted.
Fantastic.
And then we'll ask whatever questions council may have.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate your time this evening, and I appreciate the courtesy of your interview. I was here, I think, about a year ago also interviewing, and I have to say I smile every time I see your logo because I guess the town was founded in 1969. I was born in 1969, so I was thinking, hey, you know, we could turn 50 together and really make Prairie View great. I've been doing this now for, will be 25 years, or 24 years next month in November. I've been a city attorney, I've been a government attorney. I've represented state agencies, I've worked for the Texas Department of Public Safety. I've represented multiple cities. I've represented universities. I was the attorney for the University of Texas at Brownsville, Texas Southmost College. So I understand how cities interact with universities and universities interact with cities very well. I've been the city attorney for a number of cities, both small and large, both home rule and general law municipalities, all over the state pretty much of Texas. I'm currently the city attorney and prosecutor over in Hearn, which I enjoy quite a bit. I'm also the prosecutor in Schertz. I'm an associate judge in Manor. I'm a former judge for the city of Bryan. I know this area pretty well, and so I've been here quite a bit. And I got a cousin. One of my first cousins works for Prairie View A&M, so I get updates about what's going on here, and she loves the area as well. Like I said, I've been doing this for 24 years. I don't know what kind of questions you may have for me. I'd be more than happy to answer them. I gave you a couple of different options on how I bill. I would probably suggest to you a retainer. That way, I think you get more bang for your buck out of the retainer system than you do by per hour fees. I think it's better for Prairie View, and it's easier for me, quite frankly, because I don't have to keep track of all these bills, stuff like that. Like I said, I've got a lot of experience in economic development. In addition to being a city attorney, I also ran the Economic Development Corporation over in Pflugerville for a number of years. Brought in a lot of capital investment in that community. I've got a lot of experience in code enforcement. When I was with the city of San Antonio as assistant city attorney, I worked with their SNAP program, which was the Strategic Nuisance Abatement Program, using code enforcement to shut down kind of dangerous areas of town, dangerous buildings, areas where people were hanging out. You probably didn't want hanging out in those areas. I've got a lot of experience in pretty much all aspects of municipal law. So any questions along those lines, I'd be more than happy to discuss with you.
Let me see what council has.
Sure.
Council?
Yes, sir.
I would like to know, is the basic question, have you ever run into an issue where the mayor and the city council didn't get along? How did you handle that?
Well, that happens everywhere. And in fact, I think where city council members get along is probably the exception rather than the rule in most of the cities I've worked in. And so, all I can do as your city attorney is give you legal advice. And I can suggest to you what your correct legal answer is. Obviously, majority typically rules, on a city council. And a lot of times, whatever the majority ends up deciding doing is just the way it's going to be. And that may not be the way the mayor wants it to go. It may not be the way the city council member wants it to go. But ultimately, that's the answer. And so all I can really do, to be perfectly honest with you, is give you the best legal advice I can and then let you make your decisions from there. I will tell you, as I'm kind of a one-man show. So when you do need a question, I would assume each one of you would have my cell phone number, and you could call me up and just ask me a question. And that way you don't come unprepared to a meeting or something like that, so you kind of have an idea of what maybe the law is on a particular issue. I'm available 24/7 by text or email. You'll never get an associate or a junior attorney. It'll always be me that you're dealing with. And I think that's good for continuity. That way, I always know what's going on, where maybe an associate may not if I have to send somebody else up there in my place. And so I think it's better for you as a council to always have one person as a point.
Councilor Rowley?
2 questions. One, you're in San Marcos.
Yes, sir.
So if we have, we've been having some special meetings and different things going on. What is your flexibility on being able to, if we had a city council meeting tonight, if we needed to meet on Friday or Thursday, and we decided tonight, what's that flexibility? First question.
Sure.
Second question, if something was to happen to you, do you have a backup attorney or someone you call to fill in?
No, if I die, you're out of luck. Sorry. I've never had the issue, quite frankly, where I haven't been available. I do have a lot of flexibility. I have nothing else going on Mondays for sure. Nothing ever going on Fridays. Hearn is on Tuesday nights, and I'm rarely in Hearn on a day that it's not a Tuesday, quite frankly. I do shirts in the afternoon, but that doesn't mean I couldn't be here for a 6 o'clock meeting. I'm done in shirts by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, and that's only twice a month anyway. So I do have that flexibility to be here as necessary, especially for evening meetings. But I can also be here for daytime meetings if that's something you need. On a case-by-case basis, you just let me know. If you can give me a little bit of a heads up, it helps, but a lot of times I can do it on the fly.
Sure. Any other questions for council?
The flat fee retainer, that could be include EDC and planning?
It can, absolutely. We can do it all for one fee and do it all.
And now, in your version of retainer, often a retainer is built against hourly. You're saying a flat fee retainer.
Right, flat fee retainer, and I think I gave you a number of hours there that it would include. I wouldn't even foresee ever going over those numbers. I did the same thing in Hearn, and I don't think I've ever once gone over the number of hours in Hearn, quite frankly.
Anything else, council? Yes.
So I guess my question is more of a philosophical question, I guess, but I've asked this question many times in time. What made you choose the city of Prairie to be a part of the
Well, I think it's a great opportunity. Like I said, besides the fact that we're both turning 50, I'm used to operating in towns about this size. Hearn is just right down the street. I think I have a great relationship with them and their council. I think I understand the area in Robertson County over there. And it seems to me you'll have a little bit more going on than Hearn does in terms of you have the university here and you have some greater opportunities perhaps than Hearn does. Not to say Hearn doesn't have some great opportunities because they've got some things in their community that nobody else has. Some really neat things going on right now, as a matter of fact, especially in the field of economic development that we've been working on for the last about year and a half. But I think it's neat to anytime you can work with a city that has a university like you do, located within their city. I think that gives your city opportunities that many cities would love to have and that they need to take advantage of. And I'd love to be a part of it to help you take advantage of those opportunities and leverage your university. Yes, sir.
I know we kind of asked earlier, you said you didn't have like a backup lawyer.
No, sir.
Just in case. So, life happens, you do get sick. What is your plan of action if something like that happens?
Well, I do have lawyers I can call on if it was an absolute emergency. Hopefully, like I said, I couldn't really tell you. I don't have a backup plan. Like I said, I'm a one-man solo practitioner. I will be here, barring being on my deathbed, I will be here. Not to where I get you sick, obviously, but I'm in good health. I've never had an issue like that. I'm 49 years old, like Prairie is, and I don't really foresee that ever being an issue. I've never missed a meeting because of illness in the 24 years I've been doing this. I would hope that would continue. I do have other attorneys I can call if there was some kind of emergency, but other than that, I don't have a backup plan.
Yes. My last one. In many of these cities you've worked one or the other, whether it be EDC, planning and zoning, prosecution, being a prosecutor, and city attorney. Do you think smaller municipalities should have one lawyer that does everything, or do you think it should be broken up into like some of the things you worked in some of these other cities?
It depends. Like I said, I've done it where I was the attorney for the EDC and the city attorney at the same time, and that gives you certain flexibility that you don't have when you have other attorneys involved, only because you can operate a little bit quicker. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have another attorney representing an EDC or representing the court or doing whatever, because it gives you multiple opinions. It just gives you a little more speed and flexibility when you have one attorney representing everything. And I've done both.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Deborah S. Merkel, the Merkel Law Firm.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor, council members. I'm not exactly sure what you'd like to know about me, but I'll just start talking. I've licensed almost 20 years. Give me a couple of weeks and it'll be 20 years. For all of those years, I've done local government law from the get-go. I graduated Texas Tech University School of Law, worked with a law firm there in Lubbock for a few years. They worked with various large and small taxing entities in the Panhandle. And I've been practicing in Waller County for 15 years now. I was the county attorney, even though there is no such thing. I was the de facto county attorney for Waller County for 8 years. Waller County has a criminal district attorney, which means there's one office that handles the county attorney work and the district attorney work. Within that office, I was the county attorney. For 3.5 years within the district attorney's office, and then for 4.5 years, Waller County was my client. I've also worked with Austin County on a contract basis, a little bit of work with Grimes County. I am the city attorney for the town of Pine Island, your neighbor, and have been for 12 years. And my work with Waller County, advice to Commissioners Court, advice to all departments, including the Economic Development Group, the Road and Bridge Department, like I say, all elected officials and department heads. As far as prosecution is concerned, I prosecuted the juvenile cases and I prosecuted the CPS cases. I am currently the attorney for the Waller County Child Welfare Board. And in my home, which is Jersey Village, I am the volunteer chairman for the Planning and Zoning Commission. My office is in Hempstead, Texas, right across the street from the movie theater. So, any questions, I guess?
Council? Councilman Jones?
I don't see here, where you have a retainer's fee. That's something that's possible and negotiable.
Absolutely. Anything money-wise is certainly negotiable.
And that would be along the lines of a potential flat retainer versus hourly in the
Certainly.
various centers.
Certainly, whatever works best between us. Like I said, we can negotiate that.
Council, any other questions? Councilman Wallace?
Yeah, so kind of like with Mr. Akers,
Yes.
you're by yourself, right?
I am, yes.
So in the circumstance in which you are sick or whatnot, what is your plan to continue to try to represent the city?
I will not be sick. I can be reached on the telephone even if I'm on my deathbed. It is my habit and my practice, and I'm proud of it, that I answer the telephone. I answer email. I answer text constantly.
So to piggyback off of that, so do you charge for legal services like to the phone? So I know obviously you come to the city council meeting and whatnot, but like we want to call you, after hours.
I'm not going to nickel and dime you. I'm not. If you keep me on the phone for an hour, I'll probably charge you for it. But no, I'm not going to nickel and dime you. I'm not going to charge you to send a letter. I'm not going to charge you postage. I'm not going to charge you travel.
My question is similar to the one before. We have about 4 different areas: city attorney, planning and zoning, EDC, and prosecutor. What is your take on having someone that does all, or versus someone who specializes in 2 of the 4? What is your take on that?
Generally, when you're talking about a small municipality like this, you're generally looking at one person who handles the whole thing. But of course, it's all about what the council wants and what the budget can bear.
Anything else, Council?
And you would say that your area, which one of is your best area? What as far as you, with the city of Pine, or the town of Pine Island,
Yes.
is your area of expertise city attorney, is it prosecutor, is it economic development? Because our city is experiencing a lot of growth. So we have a lot of economic development issues and planning and zoning issues that are becoming a priority, but we also need someone who can engage both city council and the mayor, making sure we're moving in a forward direction. And so, you know, sometimes we may need a different voice, but so I'm trying to get from you, what do you think your specialty, or what will be the value added of us going to be?
Besides the fact that I'm right here, I'm local. I've been in the county for 15 years. My parents live in Hempstead. My brother lives in Hempstead. My favorite of the four that you mentioned is providing legal advice to elected officials. That is my favorite area.
Anything else, Ms. Wood? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for your
Thanks so much.
W. Clyde Lemon.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I brought our presentation as a summary, and it's on the pen drive, and I don't know if you want a copy of the summary. It's in color and color. It's a summary, so we don't kind of go through all the information.
Okay. You have copies of it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, sure. Pass it.
Are you asking to put this last slide?
If you have the capability, yes. It's on the flash drive.
No, we're going with, if we had set up, we'll go with the.
Okay, we just go, okay, yeah, we'll follow. One more. First, thank you for allowing us to get at this point in the process. This is, and I noticed your agenda said solo, we submitted our proposal as a joint venture between two law firms. And then I'll address that if you all have questions about that later on. What makes our proposal unique? First, we have long-standing relationships with the Prairie community, and that I started my professional career right here in Prairie as a graduate of Prairie in 1978. And Mr. Willie's father, who was a dentist in Houston, actually treated persons and residents who lived here in Prairie for many years. Second, in our presentation, what makes us a little bit more unique is that I served as an appointed official at the state level, and it's in our proposal as the Texas Juvenile Probation Commissioner, as an elected official for the Houston Independent School District, where our budget was a little over $1 billion at the time, addressing any number of issues from employment to contracts, etc. Also, I'm currently serving as a member of the Board of Directors, and I'm the Vice President for the Pine Village Public Utility District, which is in Harris County. And so that makes us unique. In terms of, it would mean a lot also to us personally, since we have long-standing relationships with this community and started in this community. And the opportunity to service your city council was presented to me by one of your residents, because I visit in and out of here periodically. And so we thought it would be a great match for us in terms of what makes us unique. The next slide goes to our competencies, because you have our resumes, our brief kind of synopsis of our experience there. Our core competencies, and I'll start with my slide first. One, many issues you face have been encountered by us, such as public employment, land development, water, open government, and the Public Information Act. And in our proposal, you will see a copy of my certificate where I recently, and I try to stay current because I am an elected official on open government and the Public Information Act. You'll see a copy of my certificate of completion from last year. Our legal practice has included cases relating election law. I currently represent a union, and they have a political action committee, so I help them on all their election law issues and relations. Also, real estate, condemnation, as well as contracts and etc. In representing clients, we have worked on all facets of the legal issue, from basic research of the issues, pre-lawsuit investigations, discovery including depositions, preparing documents to file the lawsuit or defend the lawsuit, as well. If you look at Mr. Willie's core competencies and the detail of what he's worked on, a lot of his work has been appellate work. Along with all the above, we have participated in mediation, settlement conferences, and arbitrations. And in our proposal, you will look on page 6 and 7 in the actual proposal, and you'll see a sample of the cases that I've served as legal counsel. I've been appointed as an attorney ad litem or guardian ad litem, and in some of them there were condemnation cases. On page 9 and 10, you may view sample cases that Attorney Joseph Willie, and he's present here with me, while I'm referring to him, sitting right over there, has served as legal counsel on. Many of these cases were at the Court of Appeals, so an Attorney Willie has more than 25 published appellate opinions. Our proposed role, and I'm saying this based on my experience of having sat on the side of the table that you as an elected official, our proposed role, and it's nothing written in stone, but we're willing to work it to meet your needs. One, we believe our role is to serve as a legal advisor on policy issues. We do that by simply listening, and then offering input when you call upon us to offer that input. Alternatively, we will take the initiative to share with you our legal input based on our experience that we think may help you make a better decision or make the best decision in the best interest of the city as well as your residents. 3, we fully understand we represent the mayor and the entire city council as well as persons serving on city boards and commissions. We represent all of you. And so we will do our best and commit to you from our standpoint of experience to do just that. 4, of course, when you decide you want to litigate an issue, we will litigate it in a professional manner. And I'm just simply going to say to you that my personal view and Mr. Willie's personal view is that when you hire us to litigate, it's that. You got a bulldog. It's just that. You're looking at a person who served as a leader of Marines, looking at a person who served as leader of sailors. And so we take that to heart in terms of how we approach serving the best interest of our clients. A trusted team member mentality. We want to be considered a part of your team. And we have that mentality. We want to become an integral part of your team, providing input for effective prioritization and communication on the priorities that you set, not that we set. You set the priorities and we will address them. We hope to provide routine project task evaluation. In short, on occasion, remain flexible to shift our focus based on your needs. And I say that because sometimes we may be sitting here in terms of where we're thinking we're going, but if someone has filed on you an application for a temporary injunction, guess what? The temporary injunction goes to the top of the pile all of a sudden. So we're flexible with that. It is our intent to manage our resources in a way that is dedicated to your task in a manner that ensures you receive information timely enough to make the best decisions. And we operate in terms of, we're electronic. If you look at our proposal, we talk about fast case and case maker, and I think Mr. Willie uses Westlaw, so we can get to you immediately. A notification of the mayor and city council on the status of litigation. And you'll see what's called a methodology in there.